to all the customers, even us at the back.
Well, we'll come back to that entertainment bit yet. But for now, we have another guest.
Yes, so have you ever ridden on the... have you been on the train before?
Yes.
To where?
Kano.
Oh, I've been to Ibadan several times.
That was in the past, before this current.
I know.
Those ones are the days of locomotive.
No,
today, we are not.
Right.
I think you have graduated a little.
Yes, now I've been to the Ibadan. You know, you carry your luggage as if you are traveling to the UK. My children particularly love the train. We say, we're going to Ibadan. Are we going on the train? No.
The kind of communities that are built on the train.
Yes.
It's amazing. The friendships that are formed. Somebody will buy something everybody is eating. On that long trip, you become family. By force, by fire.
And it's plenty. In fact, you think that it's expensive, but when you see the crowd, you know, and you know that a lot of people really want to avoid the roads. Yes,
it's coming back now. So who are we talking to?
None other than our guests, Mr. Kayode Okweifa.
Doctor. Please.
Doctor. Okay.
Please.
Apologies, Dr. Kayode Okweifa. Welcome once again.
Good morning.
To talk
Managing
about
Director
which you
of
know
the Nigeria Railway Corporation.
Thank you very much.
He's talking about overhaul and all of that. But my own first question, we just finished talking about the state police. Railway police. Do you have railway police?
Yes, we do.
How active?
We have a railway police that covers about 26 states.
Oh, really?
Today. And they have a commissioner of police.
You know that some people never knew that there's such a thing as railway police.
I know, because I served in the Lagos State Cabinet once, and I know when we cleaned up Oshodi, the Railway Police Command was important in the cleaning up. And for your information, your last guest was once a commissioner of police. Railway Command was once, I think, PTO, DPO,
He's
DCO.
been everything.
He was even once deputy commissioner of police operations for Nigerian Railway.
Oh, wow.
Okay. No, because there have been concerns about the fact that we have the railway system. We talk about challenges of security on the rail tracks, and we've talked about that for years. But now, to know that finally the railway police is becoming active, I think it is something to be celebrated. And these are the things that the more people know them, the safer they will feel on the rail lines.
I agree with you. Unfortunately, once you appoint somebody or once you post a police officer to the Railway Police Command, the next thing the man is thinking on his mind is how he's going to leave.
Why?
I don't know. You should have asked the last 2 days. However, the same thing with the Commissioner of Police for Railway is you hardly find people staying more than 2 years. They just want to leave. It has to do with all the issues they discuss about.
Is it also a case of funding? Do they have funding problems as well?
Very, very much will be related to funding. But in my own opinion, I think it's just to request that state governments and state governors should also take the Railway Police Command as a very serious command, especially for states like Lagos, Ogun, Oyo, Edo, Delta, Kogi, Kwara, Niger, FCT, Kaduna, now Kano, states where you have
really every state has to be.
But here again we talk about jurisdiction. If the railways, I mean, where you are concerned, is a federal infrastructure, I mean, why would you want the state governments to?
Okay, the railway, like he mentioned that he took train to Kano. I'm sure we know the train I was talking about. The railway was Nigeria at some point.
Yeah.
The railway, the history of Nigeria is the history of Nigeria. Yeah. The history of railway in Nigeria is the history of Nigeria.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for mobility is a security matter. If security fails,
Yeah.
mobility will fail.
Yes.
If mobility fails, security will fail. And the rail corridor cutting across many states, for example, River States and let me mention Enugu State. A huge part of the entire Port Harcourt and Enugu city as a whole belongs to the Nigerian Railway in terms of landmass. So you can't talk about the history of Enugu State or River State without talking about the railway. So, and what that means is for a state to be secured, you need to take into consideration that national is also a critical national asset.
Yeah.
A critical national asset passing through your corridor, passing through your state, makes it very, very important to pay attention. You've seen some videos circulating about some states. So you can't talk of Agege now, which is my own hometown, without talking of Nigerian Railway, because the rail station at Agege made Agege prominent at several points. You can't talk of Ibutemeta, Mela, without talking of Loco, you know, where many of these fantastic football players of past actually own their skills from that place. The railway compound in Lagos, Enugu, Kano, Kaduna, and Port Harcourt probably will be the biggest single community you have in those states. So it's important. And that's why I'm not saying because I'm from Lagos. Recently, the drainage system in railway, Nigerian Railway compound in the Vitimata, is now being overhauled by the Lagos state government. Because the drainage, if the drainage system within the railway compound is not in best place, there will be flooding at Ekmori, Olaleye, Ebutemeta, Monitalamwame. So the railway is an integral part of the national critical asset of Nigeria. So every state government should show interest in what happens with the railway police command. We are not even talking of the railway system, we're talking of the railway police command. Because the security of your state, of the state, is also tied to the security of the mobility corridor.
That leads to the conversation around the overhaul of the Nigerian Railway Corporation. Tell us, you know, what's outstanding, because we are aware that there are persistent challenges of funding, systemic vandalism, recurring safety incidents, and all of that. What's the plan?
Okay, I'm going to start my usual way. I have grown by faith to do away from challenges and focus on the opportunities that is ahead of me. That is not to say the word challenge does not exist. It's just I've decided to reframe it to be as an opportunity, or call it issues. So when I say issues, people can internalize it as I'm referring to challenges. It's just the issues before the Nigerian railway system overhaul or whatever is not different from the issues before the Nigerian nation itself. We started about the same time, 1912, 1914. 1960, we stopped doing nothing on the railway. When Nigeria became independent, we left the railway, and we're just taking advantage of what was built in the first 60 years. Until around 2002, 2012, we came up with the modernization plan. That plan itself will expire next year. That is Strategic Transportation Master Plan, under which we have the modernization program. So that was supposed to be the beginning of the overhaul. So it started work with technology transfer, human capital development. Unfortunately, it also had its own hiccups from that 2002 to 2015. It was when President Muhammadu Buhari came in 2015 that the Abuja-Kaduna train was completed. It started long before him. It was during his tenure the Abuja Rail Mass Transit, the first of national rail system, was completed. Same period, we started the Lagos-Ibadan train system. And same period, we started the Port Harcourt Maiduguri rail system. So what you now see, however, so that means from 1960 to 2015, let me say 1960 to 2002, we're just taking advantage of what we are. We are not making conscious efforts to move to the next level, even though, as in 1970, in one of his books, Chief Obafemi Awolowo already said, if we don't move away from where we are on our rail system, the war will leave us behind. So from 2015, let's say, we actually started the real overhaul with the standard gauge introduction and the rest. The critical thing that was left, which was also discussed with the police, was the constitutional amendment. They had to make a constitutional amendment to allow rail to exist both for state and federal investment. That is moving from the exclusive list to the concurrent list. So what that means, the first thing was the structural issue. That was removed. You recall Rivers State, Lagos State, Cross River State attempted to do rail system between 1999 and 2011. It was difficult. I was part of the Lagos State team, and I know what we went through to secure the corridor for the red line and to get approval to move on the blue line. But luckily, there was a government that was proactive. Actually, government in Lagos never had it easy with the Obasanjo government at the federal level. Yeah. But Yar'Adua came, and he knew that that shouldn't be an impediment. He relaxed the federal hold. But as soon as Yar'Adua left, Jonathan came. It was a different story. And Lagos was stalled, delayed. The same thing with Cross River, the same thing with Rivers State, until Yar'Adua played a role. But with the current situation, the structural, let me say, legal, constitutional hindrance has been removed. Now states have started showing interest. Kano is involved, Kaduna, Ogun State, Lagos, and many more states are coming up. Now, when you move from the constitutional issue, that is the statute, we now go to the structural organizations. Now states are now free to start their own rail company. They can now put up their own rail regulatory system. So you have Lamata in Lagos, I don't know the name, in Kaduna, then you have in Kano, then you have in Ogun State. So states are now coming up with their own rail agencies and rail companies. After going from there, we'll now go to the processes. How will it, just similar to what you're discussing on state police, we now have to talk about reforms, internal reforms in the Nigeria. That's the one I'm involved in. How we restructure the current railway system in Nigeria under the Nigerian Railway Corporation to make sure that the rail system, an integral part of a national integration and development, works for Nigerians and Nigeria, and make sure it meets what we call best practices, you can call it group practices, global practices, and that Nigerians can sit in their homes, book a ticket to see their friend in Kano, Kaura, Namoda, Nguru, Yobe, or wherever, within a short period of time, and be confident that they can move freely on the train, which is much more affordable, safer, more convenient than many other modes of
right. If we talk about, the level of comforts you want passengers to have, affordability, being able to sit in your homes and book a ticket without issues. Well, you must have your NIN. And then, but it's with that, where does the, commercial success of the railway start to come in? Even with this overhaul and with this restructuring and reforming that you want to do, what about commercial success of the railway itself? Where does that come in?
If you will permit me, I will just ask you to help me clarify what you mean by commercial.
No, what I'm saying
so that I don't misinterpret it.
What I'm saying is, like, is the railway, are you making money?
Okay, great.
Yes.
I understand. I know that's
because
why
there's affordability. Are you making, because when you say, like, maybe healthcare now, they say affordability, there's healthcare insurance, the government really, they're not really looking at so much profit, but to have people have quality healthcare at affordable rates. So, but for railway, you want to actually make money with the railway.
For railway, all over the world,
yes,
there are two levels of discussion. It's either you take it as a social infrastructure, or you make it, or you look it from the point of economic infrastructure. Currently, worldwide, the focus is still operating as a social infrastructure.
Right.
However, there is discussion, which is what you are taking me to, that we should start looking the rail, because of the scarcity of funds, as also an economic infrastructure. So we are decided under reforms to keep it as it is, social infrastructure, but with a focus that within the next 5 years, it should start looking like an economic infrastructure. And don't let us be confused. Economic infrastructure, social infrastructure does not mean it is not an economic issue. So the social infrastructure is that the returns may not justify, the cash, the monetary returns may not break even, or the cashback period may be so long, but that should not deprive you from investing, because it is a social, it is an enabler of wealth. It is a trade facilitator. It is a way to push people out of poverty. Yeah. So it is, in that case, you would describe it as economic infrastructure. But why they still call it social is that government should not look at the return on investment in terms of what comes through the railway. Yeah. So the return on investment in rail is the overall GDP impact on the country. Yeah. On the country. Okay. And in the case of Nigeria, for example, and I keep saying it, until we get to an investment level that gives us a return on investment based on the contribution of the rail into the transportation sector, that gives the transport sector a GDP contribution of not less than 6%, Nigeria will not transit from developing to develop. And that is the standard globally. Nations that have developed have looked at rail as a social infrastructure. And nations that have transited to rail as an economic infrastructure are nations that invested heavily without looking back. In the case of Nigeria, if we continue at the level of investment and we start looking at rail to pay back the investment, we will not move anywhere.
Perhaps that underscores the concurrent as opposed to the exclusive list that the railway system now is. So in that light, and you've talked about the angle of the international, national connectivity. How are state-level projects like the Enugu State Standard Gauge Rail and the Lagos State Green Line, which has some 100+ billion allocated for it this year, how do you see those improving the regional commerce and decongestion?
Okay, these are part of the reforms that are ongoing. And that is what I meant by the social infrastructure aspect. You see, the federal government, the national government now, is now investing in the sub-national economy through rail infrastructure. So what is happening is federal government is investing in the Lagos rail system because of the importance of Lagos to the national economy and closeness to the waterways. Then is investing in Kano Metro Rail because of the population and the impact of Kano in the northern economy. The same thing for Kaduna. Because if you want to move products from the north to the south, your best bet is through Kano and Kaduna. Then you now see states like Enugu. You need to travel to the railway station in Enugu. It's bigger than the one in Lagos. Wow. I was shocked. With even underground, linked to the stadium, linked to everywhere. And that tells you the importance of the coast city in those days. And it tells the importance of Enugu to the northern Nigeria. So when you move from Port Harcourt, you get to Enugu, you just swap to Makurdi, there you are in Kano. And that corridor was making so much resources to the Nigerian railway and the Nigerian economy. So what the government, the national government has put in place under the current administration is to ensure that states that have capacity to contribute to national growth and economy, requiring mobility, are supported. So by the time we support, the federal government supports all these states, what you see is that the capacity, because of the capital intensiveness of the rail system, they will be able to get it done. Once they get it done, it's integrated into the national railway system. Why should I be living in this is a Arepo, right? This is channels, is a, I don't know how to describe this town, because you are neither in Lagos or you are in between. Let's say we are in channels area of the Lagos and I want to take the train. You know, I still have to travel to Agege or something. Yeah. So there must be some connectivity that is left with the Lagos state government. The same thing, if you are in FCT now, and you are in Guagualada, and you want to travel to Kaduna, you still by train. It's either you go by road or you go by train. So you have the Abuja Rail Mass Transit that can take you from the CBD downtown Abuja and take you to Idu for you to join the national rail. So states must also be conscious to connect their difference. And I'm aware that Kaduna is working on that, Kano is working on that, and also Ogun State is also.
So the NRC is still very active in the interstate.
Yeah, connectivity. Yeah. Okay. More importantly, we have put up a roadmap now, a national rail map that shows the possible connection points for different states to the national rail system. Because that's the way state will not be interested in moving from Lagos to Ogun State. Lagos State will rather want to construct a rail line that joins to the same thing for Kano, the same thing for Kaduna, the same thing for Sokoto State. But very soon, you will see the train moving in Zafara.
And speaking of Lagos, there's a lot of attention on the electric powered trains and all that. What about the NRC? Any vision or mission or strategy to move from diesel tracks to electric?
Lagos is the only. Lagos train is the only train working on electric. That is the blue line.
Yeah.
And I want to say here that I've said it many times. We are planning in the next 5 years that the national rail system should start going electric. And that might possibly start with the central line, that is the Warri-Itape line, and the Lagos-Ibadan line, because they have gas to produce electrical energy that will power the track and at the same time power the system. So the limitations was when we built the old tracks, the consideration was as fast, as quick as possible because electricity was a challenge in Nigeria, let me use that word. But right now, we are already going beyond that electricity issues and we now understand how to go off-grid and create mini-grids. Kudos to Rural Electrification Agency. We are in partnership with them and they've completed evaluation of our needs. And as soon as the resources are available, you will see most likely the first line could be the central line that runs from Warri to Ajaokuta and Isako because you have gas along that corridor. The next candidate is the one that passes through Ogun Corridor because Ogun Corridor has the most available gas.
There are like 2 or 3 other issues we want to raise with you very, very quickly before you go. But before we let you go, because you're not going anywhere, we actually received a mail, and I'd like you to speak very, very briefly on that one. Samuel Agbelu says, I know Okwefa. I never knew that tickets racketeering will exist under his leadership anywhere. He needs to do something.
Yeah, I agree with him. It should never exist under anybody, but not to talk of me. So I take that as a compliment. And let me say this, it has always been existing. And racketeering will exist where you have demand and supply, this equilibrium, where people see opportunity to do business because more people want to use the train than the capacity the train has. Yeah. And what we have done since I came is to introduce double checks for boarding. And I can tell you for corridors like the Lagos corridor is below 1%, about 1% or below. For corridors like the Abuja-Kaduna where it was most prevalent, then it used to be as much as 20%. We have brought it down to, we thought we have gone down to 1%, but when we had the incident at Asham in 2005, we saw a rise. And I can assure you, I spent the last 1 week going through some of those terminals. You can put up system. You have to make sure people operate according to that system.
But will it help?
Once you do double check, like you have at the airport, and there is no demand for that ticket, I mean, even though there is demand for the racketeering, that whoever purchases that ticket cannot use it. And that's why people went on the internet and on the news medium, blasting, writing all sort of things, because we prevented them from boarding the train. If you need name to buy ticket. We introduced name before I came. And we said, let's take advantage of the NIN introduction. So if you want to buy ticket, you are working with channels, and 4 of you are going, you can buy ticket for them. Buy your own with your NIN number. She buys with a NIN number. Your producer buys with a NIN number. So you can't buy for 3 people. That's where racketeering comes in. People buy bulk, and then they resell like the football ticket. So what we now say now is, what we do now is, when you get to our station, at entering the terminal, the sitting area reception, you have to show, our system can tell who you are. Once you put your ticket on a platform, it shows your picture. That is the picture linked to the name. If it is not, if she had bought the ticket for you, we will be seeing her picture and say, you are not a woman. Then we tell you to go and buy the ticket on the counter if it is still available. So then when it's now time to check in, like they do at the Lagos airport, I was challenged yesterday by some people you do that. This is not done at Abuja airport. But in Lagos airport, you do double checking. You check when you enter the aviation terminal, then you check when you want to board. Yeah. So if we do that, you will see it to go down. But the difficulty is if you don't do the second leg, our own men, we have seen them move people around the loopholes into the terminal, and they still get to check. And I give you 7 days, you're going to hear of a bust. That's a big bust. That is concluded. Okay. We have the bust.
There's this issue that you have been dealing with, and that is that of security. We understand that you have deployed acoustic sensing security surveillance systems, particularly on the Abuja-Kaduna corridor. To what extent do you see that addressing the threats?
I won't talk much about what we have deployed or what is operating, but I will just paraphrase it that corridor has a lot of physical security systems in place. And we also can, to some extent, as of today, view a lot of what is happening along the corridor from our control room. At the initial stage, if your rail system was built on a certain signal level, you have problem of introducing new technology. It's like these are computer, Windows 10, Windows 11, Windows 16, and the capacity of the operating system. Once the operating system is not at the right level, there is limitation of how much software you can download. So we have that issue. So what we are doing now, what we have achieved on the Abuja-Kaduna line, we are repeating on other lines. And on the Warri-Itakpe line, we have introduced a lot of more physical things. And very soon, the electrical and electronic digital system will start showing. We are at the level of procurement of many of these systems.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Dr. If I can talk about railway for 2 hours non-stop. Yes. That's what he loves to do, transport in general. And I love listening to him anyway, so it's fine.
Thank you so much. Let me say something before I go. We've introduced 3 trips per day now for Fridays, Saturdays, Sunday, and Monday on the Abuja-Kaduna line. That will reduce racketeering. Okay. That will also improve experience. And we have gone further. We now have train tourism, train experience, and people can now have, not just ride the train like your kids do tell you. We want people to have experience on the train, for where we have the train.
What's your website?
www.nrc.ng.com. Okay. I know you want to tell me.
Dr. Kayode Okoyefa, Managing Director of Nigerian Railway Corporation, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
We're back for the next conversation, and this one, we're taking you to Ogun State.